Good morning. It's Dwight Smith in Richmond, Virginia. Uh, it's a great morning. It's just a fabulous morning. It's Easter morning. And as you know, if you've seen any of my previous YouTubes, Holy Week is very, very important to me. It's always had a great time, just a normal, natural introspection. And I think part of that is to the heaviness of the consciousness around me of Christians mourning this day and the suffering and the blame and the shame and the guilt and all that has gone with it during this week, during the leading up to today. I stay in that place of what does it really mean? What does Christ say to me about this day? Not Jesus. I mean, well, it would be Jesus, but it's the Christ of Jesus, Jesus resurrected. Okay, so what does this Christ say to me? And so all during the week, I always have these wonderful upliftments, and I think I had two before this, an A and a B, Good Friday and Easter. So this morning, I got a nice text from someone wishing me a happy Sunday. And so I want to read my reply to her because it's pretty good. And it's not that it's pretty good, it's what it contains. Okay. Everything for me is the feeling, that oneness, that absolute knowingness, the communion of the Father and I as one. I can do nothing without life. I can do nothing without the Father. I can do nothing without this intelligence. I can do nothing without this body to do it on this plane. The intimacy of the Father and I are one is the love that we seek. It is the truth that makes us free. It unbinds us. It frees us from anything less than this truth. It's not really the Father and I, it's the Father as me. The I am as the I am. The I am universal with the I am individualized. And that universal consciousness is also my individualized consciousness for my human being. But the consciousness is who I am. The body is just the expressing of that I am. Wow. So I was brought up with Jesus, died for my sins, was crucified, buried, and he rose again. And all year long I'm dragged over the coals of hell, saying, if you don't accept Jesus as your personal Savior, this is where you will spend eternity. So after 19 years, they finally, well, no, it wasn't scaring me into heaven, but that was the goal, especially of Good Friday, of here's what you've done to the only Son of God, and so forth and so on. So it's a pretty powerful message, and I accepted it, and then it was when I did accept Jesus as my personal Savior, but it was a different experience for me than the intellectual experience it was for the most of the other born-again Christians. For me, it awakened me to the Father. It awakened me to all that Jesus said I can do. I, Dwight Smith, can also do. Because as he goes to the Father, now we hear that in the resurrection, but as he goes to the Father, as he raises his consciousness to the consciousness creating him, he gets that connection and he can do all things because the Father is limitless. And the acceptor of the Father is limitless. So when one accepts God, Jesus can heal me, and we put our faith in that we open ourselves to our own healing. But the healing ultimately is within the individual. It's not from outside. Even medicines that we take, the healing is still within the individual. So connecting with the Father of us is it. So Easter's very important to me, I guess you can tell. I just recorded my sissy story a little bit ago as far as self-esteem and why I can wear a tie-dye, because it's not my presence that's important. Um, it's my it's the lesson that comes through for me and for you if you're watching. And if you're not, it's for me, and I'm enjoying that. So so coming back to the message, so here's what I sent to this friend who wished me a happy day. I guess I didn't finish that thing though. So all during the week and the day and basically the year in at least my Baptist church upbringing, everything is the sacrifice and the guilt and the shame and the blame and how could I, and God can't love me because I've killed his son, and on and on. And then we come to Resurrection Sunday and we sing songs, we hear stories, we have readings, we have celebration, and celebration is celebration because this Jesus that was killed is now alive. And all that he said he was, we now see the reality of it, that it's not a physical thing and it's not an empty thing. It's something that has some tangibility to it, but different than the tangibility of the human body. And so Jesus was just showing us that, okay, I can manipulate through the consciousness that I am, I can manipulate my body, and I can manipulate the appearances of things around me and change them, okay? So with that mind power, I can also show you a body that doesn't have form, that's translucent, but just so you can see there was something there, something that's identifiable, something that's tangible. Even though you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not there. We see the clouds in the atmosphere, but we don't see all the moisture that those clouds come from. That's beautiful. So, so everything is about, this day is about finding that the Father and I are one. That's what it's all about. Jesus showing us, God showing us, not Jesus, the Christ of Jesus showing us, I am real. I'm a part of you. You can't see me. You don't know I exist. And you're looking for me, and you found it in a book. But that's not where I am. I'm inside of you. So here's what I said, and I guess I'm only saying this because this is what kicked all this off, okay? So I say, yes, a happy time of recognizing the resurrected Christ. And I use the X, the capital X. That's a Greek symbol for Christ. I use it to identify my Christ from the Christian Christ of a deified Jesus. And that's what I know I talk more to the Christians perhaps than anyone else, but that's my focus is, as the Christians can come up into the truth of the Christ of us, then we can share that truth with no separation, because there's no separation in Christ. There's no Muslim and Jew and atheist or any of that. Christ is everyone and everything. And it's for us to recognize that. So as Christians can come up into the consciousness of everything that Jesus taught us is true, but now we own it. Now it's true for us, not true for Jesus. He's just showing us that what's true for me is true for you. So as I'm living this, I'm encouraging you to live this also. It only comes from knowing the Father and I are one. So, and I go on and I digress, and the message is powerful. Because I don't just believe this stuff, I know it. And I be it as best I can. And that, if you want to see that as conceit, that's okay. Because I love myself enough that people cannot like me. People can hate me. They can call me the Antichrist. I don't care, because truth, love, Christ is the only love, the only passion I have in my world. And the beauty is that includes everybody and everything. Isn't that great? Everything. So, sorry. Let me see. Okay. I pushed a button that messed me up, took me to a different screen. So Yes, happy time of recognizing the resurrected Christ, the capital X, the Greek symbol for Christ, within ourself and recognizing it within everyone. Self and one are capitalized to show um, a different recognition, a more spiritual, a Christed one, and with everything. Okay, so when we get to know this Christ, as this Christ reveals itself to us through every life experience. But first, we have to have a relationship with the Father within us. And as John Randolph Price says, it's got to be an intimate relationship. Think of the most loving love you've ever had for anyone or anything, and it may even be Jesus or God or a person, or it may be a scene. Um, but think of that time when if you would define love, you would have at least this expression of what it is. And feel that for a moment. Yeah, let's just be in meditation. Feel that. Feel that presence, that joy, that safety, comfort, peace, excitement, exhilaration, beauty. Non-judgment, just appreciation. Feel it. See it, feel it. Be it. Be right there. Have the right there in your mind so powerfully that if there's water, you hear it running. If it's a scene, you hear birds singing. Put life, put energy into it. Make it real. Be there. And now I want you to have this feeling and know that it's just a drop of the ocean of what love really is. And as much of it as I believe I know, as much of it as I do know, as much of it as I can be in any now moment, I know there is so much more because I still have my human being, my human mind, my human consciousness. And even what I call my Christ consciousness is still limited by my human being at times, you know. So the joy is to, first of all, this is the feeling I go to for everything in my life. When I see horror in the news and I feel a part of me rebel to that, I go back to that love and say, you know, there's something about this. I don't know all what's behind it. All I know, what I believe, what I trust, what I accept, what the Christ of me tells me is that we are moving into a new dimension of humanity. We are now in the consciousness of the third dimensional plane. And now we're moving into the consciousness of the creator of the three-dimensional plane individually. And as our consciousness shifts higher and higher, more and more of us, the energy of us, the consciousness of us, the energy of this consciousness brings forth the new kingdom of heaven on earth. And I claim and declare that we can do this year if we all just start loving ourselves. And through loving ourselves, we find God. And through finding God, we find ourselves. It's a beautiful intertwining of seeking and finding, finding and seeking and finding and being, seeking and being, finding and being and finding. Everything leads back to itself, this beautiful, awesome, incredible love relationship that we have with our human being, with our consciousness being, with our Christ being. This is what communion meant to me when I took it in the Baptist church. I communed, I became one with in a belief, not in the knowingness I have now, but in the belief. I knew I was within God and God was within me. And so communion was always a sacred time for me, not sacred and serious, sacred and being saved, being in peace, being the experience that we just had the vision of, okay, a person or a scene. And to know that this is all Jesus had. He had this feeling, this experience all the time. He knew. He didn't know. He was the consciousness that knew. And so Jesus really was the puppet of his own consciousness, as we all are. Because we are what our consciousness is, but we are telling our consciousness what we want, and our consciousness gives it to us, whether that's disease or ease. Ernest Holmes says the universe, the Father, the Christ of us, the individual consciousness of us, knows us as we know ourselves by our own value. So when I see myself as a worthless sinner, as I was brought up being told, the God of me, the Christ of me says, I will give you anything. I will bring to you everyone so you can believe that that's true for you. And then make it true. So that same thing works. And many of us live in that world. We talk a lot about feeling unworthy, feeling unnecessary, many wounds and hurts in our lives. And all of those that we're trying to protect or try to heal, we can't do it with our third dimensional consciousness because that's the creator of it. So we have to go to the higher consciousness. I say higher, it's not that it's taller. It's not that it's outside of us. It's just recognizing that it's more than this body is. Tremendously more than this body is. This energy field that we are in individually is huge or small. We can choose. I choose mine to be very large. And so it's this consciousness that I'm telling constantly what I want. And the consciousness, it's the so-called magic. It's the law, as we say in Science of Mind and in Christ Letters. It's the universal law that takes the invisible thought with feeling and brings it into effect, into form. So I don't remember where this all came from. Oh, I know. Sometimes when I go into the consciousness of, I'm sorry, that's what happens when I interrupt myself. Sometimes when I go into the science of this creation process, I go into a different segment of my consciousness, so to speak, so I can speak it scientifically, whereas everything else that I'm sharing is etherical, if there is such a word, and if I'm using it correctly. But it's important to know the science that my thought with feeling creates my experiences. If I want to change my experiences, I change my thoughts. And my feelings are telling me what I'm thinking, so it's important to listen to my feelings. Are my feelings in a state of calm, peace, resolve, acceptance, serenity, beauty, grace, joy, support, excitement, enthusiasm? Or is it caught up in fear, anxiety, judgments? So if my feelings are in those, I have to look at my thought. What am I thinking that causes that thought, that feeling? What am I thinking that causes my feeling? So I look at that feeling, that thought, and I say, do I want that to create? Or what thought would I like to create? And I take that thought and I go to the feeling. Yeah, this feeling makes me happy. Oh, let's make this choice. Okay, it's really that simple. A lot of practice, practice. If you want to if you want to get to Carnegie Hall, as the saying goes, you practice, practice, practice. If you want to do anything well, anything good, practice, practice, practice. Well, we're not told how to practice our life. We're just told what our life is, and we believe it, and therefore we create a life. But the Resurrection Sunday, Jesus says, there's a life in you that is love, that is pure love. There's a life in you that's pure intelligence. There's a life in you that is free from all harm, all sin, all blame, all judgment. There's a life in you that you can be happy with, that you can be proud of, that you can have confidence to be yourself. Hmm. I just ask you to now take quiet time. For as long as you can, I'm going to end the recording very shortly with the blessing of the day, the week, the month, the year. This is the year I want to see world peace for all people, all Christians, Muslims, Jews, Arabs, and I'm hoping I'm not slurring in any of these words. But I would like to see this the year that the world finds love and that the world finds God within. And so I ask you to hold this vision with me because you are the holder or you are the resistance to this vision coming into full form. We are all the way shower of the God that we believe. God I believe in has no judgments, is only inclusive. And everything in the world is moving us to this consciousness of enough of the old, time for a new beginning, a rebirth of our own life. I love you. I appreciate you. And I behold the Christ that you are through knowing the Christ that I am. God truly blesses us all as one.